Hi guys, welcome back to the show Bujang Broke. Right, today we're going to talk about saving. We know that it's something that is important for us, but it's often easier said than done. So today we have a special guest, Stefan, to be with us to talk about saving for the rainy day. Usually his friend call him Steve. He's the founder and CEO of mypf.my and a licensed financial planner. So he started mypf.my 7 years ago as an online financial education portal that leverages on fintech to connect clients to financial planners and solutions. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm so glad to be here, and really excited to see Bujang Broke with this endeavor for personal finances literacy formulation.
So good to have you here today. All right, so why not let's start with our first question of the day. Why must we save? Isn't money something that we work hard for and we can use it to buy anything we want that makes us happy?
I would actually agree with that. I'm actually of the school of thought that money shouldn't be kept in the sense that you're until every day you're actually dreading life, on skimping on everything, like every day just makan roti, eating instant noodles just to survive. I think that's really no way to live. But with that said, it's really about money. Firstly, should be able to cover all your needs, all your necessary expenses, and then it should be able to cover some of your wants. But that doesn't mean that it should cover all your wants, if you can get the difference. So it means that after covering all your basic needs, all your necessary expenses, you can choose what are the things that are important to you, what give value for yourself. For me, for example, I love drinking coffee. I drink about 2 cups of coffee a day. So that's not something that I'm going to give up, actually, because to me that would be something that actually gives me value, gives me enjoyment. So you need to actually balance that between your savings. And to be honest, if you skip that cup of coffee every day, it's not going to make you a millionaire. So you need to actually prioritize and just choose what are the important things for you to spend, and then make sure that you have enough set aside for your savings.
Based on your experience that you've met a lot of people here and there, what do you think are those sort of expenses that might not be that necessary, but yet people will spend and then somehow deplete their saving faster than they could accumulate it?
Sure. If it was one thing, I would think that it's actually the advent of installment purchase plans, or IPPs in short, where basically you spend and you buy things that you actually don't have the money for today. So it can be put on a credit card, on auto installment purchase plan, sometimes often at 0%. So then you walk into a store, for example, whether there's online store nowadays or a physical store, and you actually go in not actually planning to buy anything, or maybe you just needed to buy 1 or 2 things that was actually on your list of things to actually buy. But then suddenly, you just go in, rampang mata, and you see, wow, there's just so many things. And then, there's all these impulse purchases, things that you don't really need. And then you think that, hey, I can actually afford it because, say the thing was, say, a couple of thousand ringgit. But if it's actually stretched to 12 months, 24 months installment purchase plans, you're paying less than 100 ringgit a day. So it seems very affordable. But then the question at the end of the day, would it be, is it something that you really need? Or is something that's going to bring you enjoyment? Or it's something just temporary, and the last of the eyes of the moment, or being in a very nice atmosphere, you just want to feel rich, feel like spending, but it's not actually going to add value to you. So with that, you probably want to, one thing, have a list of the things that you want to buy, and secondly, if there's anything that catches your eye, there's actually a 24-hour rule. Give it 24 hours and still think, okay, after 24 hours, do you still feel the same way about it? And if yes, and it's something that's going to bring you value and enjoyment, then hey, go for it.
Speaking about that, because we're under MCO, so previously, prior to that, we can move around and shop. But nowadays, the behavior sort of changed whereby it goes online. I think it's even more difficult because we are always with our gadgets and the shop is literally in front of our eyes. So if we can't, get out of it, we might be hooked to suddenly buy a lot without us realizing it, right?
So true as well. And if you actually look at how all these shopping apps are actually designed, it's actually designed in such a way that it's totally seamless. It's so easy that you just click a button, all your information is already saved over there, whether it's credit card, or nowadays there's a lot of e-wallets or payments that are already attached to it. So when you spend, it doesn't really feel like spending money because it's just so automated at one click of a button. So that really triggers our impulse purchase habits as consumers, and definitely online, even more so.
Yeah. So ideally, actually, what's a good amount of saving that one should have to be considered at the safe side?
Right. It really does depend on which life stage you are and whether you have any dependents. So we're talking about dependents. It might actually be if you're married and with kids, for example, your children will be the main example of dependents. Other dependents maybe might be your siblings, maybe younger brothers or sisters who maybe you're older, you're already working, so they're actually depending on you for some amount of income as well, maybe to fund their studies or some of the expenses. Or you may have aging parents who are actually depending on you as a source of income as well. So the general rule of thumb that you often hear from a lot of personal finance sites, blogs, etc., is actually having 6 months of emergency savings. And that's not wrong. It's actually a very good rule of thumb for general people. But if, on the other hand, you're actually young, single, you totally have no dependents at all, no one's depending on you for anything, you probably can go with as low as, say, 3 months worth of emergency savings, because the rest of the money would be better put off into investments and to actually generate more income for you. And then another aspect that we're actually seeing is during this period of time where we're actually seeing with MCO hitting, the economy being impacted as well. We hear of people losing jobs, getting income losses. So if your income or your salary is actually not stable, you might want to consider having a larger pool than, say, 6 months of savings. So probably having 12 months of savings would probably be a better idea. Another group of people would be, for example, if you are one of those who actually want to step up of maybe you're employed all the while, but now you actually want to start your own business, be an entrepreneur, etc. So for that, the very minimum you're looking at is actually having 12 months of savings, or probably 24 months will be even better. Because the last thing you want to do to actually feel or have while building your business is that you're worrying whether, we have enough food, and to cover all your various expenses and bills for the next few months. So by having that 24-month buffer or 2-year buffer, that would be really ideal. And then one final group would be if you're actually retiring or very, very near retiring, or you have already retired, you probably want to have savings in the ballpark of, say, about 3 to 5 years. So there's about 36 to 60 months. And the reasoning behind that is that you don't want to have all your savings because you'll be depending largely on your savings to cover all your necessary expenses, etc. So you wouldn't want your savings all to be, say, into higher risk or into investments, and suddenly there's a market crash or something happens, and then the funds that was actually meant for your old age, you're not able to access it, or the value has actually dipped. So that's why it's better to have a larger buffer of, say, 3 to 5 years for savings if you're a retiree or near retiree.
Wow, that's a very comprehensive outlook you have for all the different categories. Okay, let me go for the young people first. There are people out there whereby they might not have any study loan or car loan. So this group of people might have thought saying that, why should I save now? Because I don't have any debt, and I earn that money, I want to spend first. Then later on, perhaps the habit will come in for me to save. What are your thoughts about this?
I think the underlying concept behind that would actually be delayed gratification. So money is basically a tool, actually. It's neither good or evil. It's basically how you actually use money as this tool. So if you spend $1 today, it can actually give you $1 worth of whatever goods or services today. But if you were to wisely save it or invest it and let it compound, it may be worth significantly more, especially if you compound over a longer period of time. So it may be difficult. Let's say you talk to someone who's young, and as a financial planner, I have clients who are really young as well. And when I talk with them, I actually don't talk about using the word retirement, because retirement is just this concept, right? That's just so far away that you can't really relate to, right?
They can't imagine yet.
Totally can't imagine that, and I totally get that. But if you actually look at it as having that balance of, how about if you could do it that, yes, you can go ahead and spend on all your needs and the things that are important to you, these various wants, and at the same time make sure that you're actually heading towards financial independence. So it's actually that trade-off of how much do you spend today, how much should you have some form of delayed gratification in order for you to achieve financial independence, where I'm sure even if you're young now, I'm sure you don't want to be, say, in your 60s, 70s, and you could still be working, maybe you love what you do, but you don't want to be actually tied down, or maybe your health wouldn't allow you to work, and you're forced to work. Then that could be actually a situation that would be detrimental to you. So it's a little bit of looking at now and also looking into the future.
Wow. So what's the tips or hacks that that you can share with us to cultivate this habit of saving?
I would say the first thing is to actually pay yourself first. Money, in a way, is a little bit like water. If you actually don't allocate it somewhere, and it just flows at the end of by the end of the month, you're not sure where exactly it has gone. And I'm sure that some of you watching will be nodding your heads in agreement to that. So the whole idea is that when you actually get your pay or your income, the first thing you do is that you have a designated amount or percentage that you actually want to set aside for your savings. So that's actually the most basic core of budgeting. So budgeting isn't something that's meant to constrain you or feel that I can't spend because of my budget. But instead, a budget is actually meant to free you actually. So by actually setting aside X amount that you're going to save or invest every month, and then after that you cover all your expenses and your wants, and after that, if you have left over, you can basically spend it on whatever you want and not worry about it, because you know that you're already on track towards your savings and your retirement goal. And in order to make that a little bit more concrete as well, I know that if I ask you to say 6 months of your expenses, it can seem daunting, right? Such a large sum. So the idea is, how do you break that into smaller amounts? So you can start with a good figure if you're just starting out on saving, is just to aim to save for the first 1,000 ringgit. So once you have actually saved that 1,000 ringgit, give yourself a pat on the back, celebrate a little bit, you have achieved a milestone. And then next to achieve 1 month's worth of your expenses. And once you have achieved that milestone, then to move on to the next milestone, say 3 months of your expenses and maybe 6 months or whatever your ideal amount that you have for saving. So take it step by step. Don't let goals overwhelm you or paralyze you by fear, but just take small steps that can be done and break it down, and I'm sure you'll get there.
So it's like a marathon journey whereby you cannot, or you go to the gym, you don't go so hard on yourself first, slowly build that baby steps, and once you get comfortable, you increase the benchmark little by little.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting at it. Yeah, totally like a marathon. It's not a sprint actually in terms of your personal finance.
All right, great. So after this, I'll be asking Steve more interesting questions. We'll be right back after the break. All right, and we're back with Steve, our expert of the day, to talk about how you can save for your rainy day. All right, so Steve, what book are you currently reading that that you can share with us, perhaps skewed towards this topic of the day that can help us?
To be honest, the book that I'm reading right now is actually my own book. So I'm actually in the process of writing my own book. I was approached by a publisher who apparently was a fan of mypf.my, our website, and saw the various content that we'll be putting out for free. So we're actually putting together a book, and it's actually tentatively titled The 7 Stages to Financial Independence. So within it, you'll definitely be looking at how you actually approach various things, starting from things like savings, how do you actually build that habit, what are the steps that you can take, right all the way up to protection, investment. So it's a very holistic topic by topic, covering all the various 7 stages that you can reach towards financial independence. So within it, you would actually get both notes, ideas, how to actually go about it, what are the best practices, what are real life examples, you get stories, you even get exercises actually on how you can actually practice personal finances in real life. So it's not something that's far away or difficult, but it's something that's relatable. It's something that isn't just for the rich, but it's really for every Malaysian out there.
Wow, nice. Not just theory, but practical as well. So is it like you can get someone to be accountable with you to practice doing like a sparring session?
In a way, you could as well. So having an accountability partner can be definitely beneficial. For some couples, it might be each other. For some people, it might be a friend or someone who's a little bit knowledgeable of personal finances. For others, it may also involve engaging a licensed financial planner as well, who can actually walk with you throughout the journey, share with you all the various experiences that either he or she herself or himself has gone through, or seen with other clients as well. So that can act as a very good accountability partner on your journey, on your way to financial independence.
All right, so Steve, there's been a discussion around in the social media talking about which is more important, financial literacy or focusing solely on income. So what's important from your point of view?
I would actually say that both are actually important, because you can talk to someone all about financial literacy, but if they don't have any income coming in, then it's very difficult to put into practice whatever we know about financial literacy, whether it's about how to save, how to spend, etc. So the first thing is really to how do you actually build up that income level, whether it's things that's within your own circle of competency or control, whether you can do things like side hustles, or are there any other job opportunities or ways for you to upskill yourself. There's a lot of free courses available online as well, which teaches you very relevant skills for this new generation that we're in. So the first really will be about increasing income. Together with that, it actually comes in on financial literacy, to actually look at how are you really looking at your money. You can say every month that, oh, I don't have enough to save to cover all my bills. But then look at it. Are there actually things that are really unnecessary, things that are actually a drag on your expenses, things that you could actually cut off and do without? So that would be another aspect of it as well. So by having actually both income as well as financial literacy, then you're able to set aside a good habit of saving and then investing to actually lift you out from this area where you're actually struggling with your finances.
There's also people who keep asking questions like, is there any way that we can save our money besides fixed deposit? Would you recommend something else? Any other safer financial product that they can put their money so that they do not spend it, but at the same time able to see it grow little by little with the least risk that you know of?
Other options would actually be high yield savings accounts. So these also offer the rates of about plus minus 2% as well. And the added advantage is that it's also liquid. So you can actually don't have to be locked in, unlike the fixed deposit where it's actually locked in for a period of time. So you can actually put in and withdraw the money at any period of time as well. The third option would actually be a money market fund. So this is basically a cash management solution. It's not protected by PIDM, but it comes with that same level of flexibility, as well as the rate of return about plus minus 2% as well, with the advantage of the added flexibility that we see.
Oh, great. So hypothetically, if there are people who are very good with their saving skills, they can save up to 50 to 100,000. But, inflation comes in a way. Does it still matter for them to save?
Yes, it would still matter, because inflation actually continues to affect the value of our money, whether we realize it or not. So it also depends on what are your financial goals and basically how much that you have. So for example, if you know that, okay, you only need X amount for all your various financial needs, and you have all these funds that you can that you have already saved up, so you can actually just leave it all into savings, because your pool of funds that you have is already sufficient for all your needs. But I would say there's really the minority of people who can actually do that. So for most people, inflation is something that's continually going to erode the value of our money as well. So that's why it doesn't make sense to put it under your mattress or in a Milo tin or something like that, because inflation is definitely going to eat away at it. Banks and savings rates, etc., the interest rates in countries where it's still positive, like in Malaysia, it helps a little bit, but that itself usually also doesn't quite tie into inflation itself. So it means that you need to find a way for your money to work a little bit harder for you. So besides the amount that you have set aside for your emergency savings that we talked about earlier, whether that's 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, you should be looking at, okay, the rest of the funds after that, how do I put it elsewhere? How do I actually optimize it or invest it so that it can actually generate the sort of returns that would be higher than the inflation rate? So this would be actually the rate of return that's above inflation rate. That's the actual gains in terms of percentage returns. And by doing that, how then would it be able to reach all my various financial goals at the end of the day?
Right. Well, there's a lot of things that we've talked so far, but let's go for a short break first before we wrap this discussion for today. So stay tuned, don't go away. All right, we're back, and with me, Ryan, I'm your host for Bujang and Broke. Steve, what will be your advice to our audiences who are watching us and they want to seriously start saving their money?
Right. So I would suggest that you really start with the end goal in mind, whether that's retirement for you, whether that's financial independence for you, and to not be discouraged, because the saying is, the best time to start saving and investing is 10 years ago, but the next best time is today. So even though you started late, or you think you're starting not as early as your peers, you can and still get started today. So really look at, firstly, what are the ways that you can actually increase your income? What are the ways that you can actually reduce your expenses with any unnecessary spending? set aside your emergency savings or your rainy day fund, your mojo fund, whatever you want to call it, and basically invest the difference to keep up and go beyond inflation towards reaching your various financial goals.
Awesome. There's a lot that we learned today from your sharing. We learned to know that different age category will have different priorities on how they want to plan to save. So the recommended amount to save is about 3 to 6 months, can be 12 months too, depending on our age category. Also do budgeting, remember to pay ourselves first. We have also different ways to save our money besides the fixed deposit. All right, so the show has come to an end, but we'll see you in the next episode to talk about how we can plan our finance for a better quality of life. And I want to thank Steve for joining us today. This show, Bujang Broke, will be tuning and see you next week.